now, with his take on all of this, is a legend of the criminal bar, host of the podcast Reasonable Doubt and Two Angry Men, Mark Geragos. Mark, thank you for coming on. It's good to see you once again.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Is the Goldman family ever actually going to see any of this money?
No, they're not. It reminds me, I have good friends who a lot of times go to trial against defendants who don't have a deep pocket, basically. That it's a trial to get to a verdict, get a huge verdict. And I always ask them, what is the point? And they say, well, it's great marketing. And, okay, I got it. In this case, the agreement that the amount is $58 million, as the Goldman said and filed, it's really meaningless because there's nothing there. I mean, the IRS is going to take their share, and they're going to be first in line. And after they take their share with penalties and interest, there's going to be absolutely nothing left. So it's unfortunate because the Goldmans did get a verdict. I remember that case well. Dan Petruccelli was the one who tried it. That kind of vaulted Dan into his career with that verdict, but it's not collectible in the least.
Why the 180 then? I mean, it seems the executor was like, I'm not paying anything. And then, okay, we'll agree to the $58 million claim. Is that because they know there's nothing to pay out?
Yeah, I was going to say, can I preface this with wild speculation?
You can preface that definitely with wild speculation.
Okay, let me preface it with wild speculation. Because the money's run out and the executive probably thought to himself, why am I fighting this? There's nothing left to pay me, let alone them. What's the point?
Honestly, it makes sense to me. I can't say for sure. That seems like reasonable, wild speculation. I do have a question, though. What about the pension? What about selling off memorabilia? Is there more money somewhere? Is there more money they could look at? Or is this more a symbolic win? Is this saying this is an acknowledgement, the debt is going to be paid off, even if it's $1 coming from OJ to Goldman, that says something?
Well, I can think of some ways. I don't represent the Goldmans, have no connection to them, but I can think of a lot of ways that they could try to monetize this, and not the least of which is to maybe own the IP. There would be a bitter irony, however, that if they somehow got possession of the IP, that the person that they are promoting for the rest of time in death is the person who they believe ended up killing their loved one. But that is one way, and you can monetize people after their death, and a lot of times that's a way to do it. As far as the pension, that's a lot more complicated, and that has to do with who gets to inherit that, how does that run, and that's an NFL pension, and they've got rules that were collectively bargained for, which, by the way, is one of the reasons that he moved to Florida in the first place, because for the protection, the bankruptcy protection back then.
You raise a larger point that I want to get to, generally about collecting civil judgments, particularly with celebrity figures. I'll put that to the side for a second. The IP is really interesting. I wonder if that is something that could be negotiated. And look, usually we talk about IP with very memorable, very positive people. If it's Elvis, if it's Marilyn Monroe, right? I guess they could get it and just make sure his name, image, and likeness are always portrayed in the most negative fashion possible and make money off of that. I guess that's an aspect, yeah.
I mean, they could even make it if they wanted to license it, or if they were to negotiate the intellectual property and then license it out. They could restrict the ways that it's licensed and how they monetize the licensing for good, bad, or ugly. I mean, that's whoever's got possession, lawful possession of the licensing in the name and likeness has that ability. It would not surprise me in the least at the end of the day if there is no cash to write a check or a significant amount of cash to write a check, that they do that. And as far as the memorabilia, remember, that was one of the reasons, as you just said in the package that started this off, that got him, OJ had that claim of right defense that failed, but somebody was selling off his memorabilia. So there's an irony there as well.
How was he able to avoid this for so long? And it goes to a larger question. Right? Yes, he went to prison for some time. Maybe that delayed it in some way. But when you look at like the Epstein survivors, they were paid out quickly. How is it possible that if there's a judgment put in 1997, that all this time goes by and he was able to avoid it? I mean, again, I don't quite understand that, because people will look at this and say bad actors, a lot of times when they're ordered to pay a judgment, they figure out a way not to pay it. Alex Jones, another example. How was he able to avoid this, OJ, for so long?
If you're, first of all, if you're living, it's a lot, but I know it's counterintuitive, but if you're living, it's generally easier to protect assets. I mean, you mentioned Alex Jones, he goes through bankruptcy protection. There's another guy, forget his name, that's got a $900 million judgment against him. He's overseas. I've got judgments against guys right now who moved to Hong Kong for tens of millions of dollars. So there are ways when you are alive. Now, you mentioned Epstein. That's an interesting one. He had an estate that was over, if you believe what you read, $500 million. It's in the news today because they just released to Congress, or recently, by virtue of subpoena, the estate had the emails that are the subject of the Epstein controversy right now. But that estate is the one who then, which was very well funded, they entered into settlements with the victims in the case. So if you've got money, you can enter into settlements. If you don't have money, you've got to get more creative.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate aspect of the justice system in a way. I understand Goldman's going to receive an administration fee. What is that? How much is that? Is that typical in a case like this?
I don't know if it's typical, but it's typical that there is an administration fee. There is, whenever you probate a matter, there is normally a statutory, meaning by statute, percentage that the administrator gets. So my guess is that there was also a deal cut with the executor, going back to that, where the executor said, well, I will pay you off, but you release me from any claims and you can take the fee that I normally would get going forward. And you don't want the executor, who knows, maybe there was some legal saber rattling at the executor to say you were in cahoots with OJ when he was alive to avoid payment of the judgment. We're going to do a lot of discovery. You can do it the easy way or the hard way. Go hire a lawyer. There's no money in the estate to pay one. Otherwise, forfeit your executor fee. We'll take that administration fee and we'll give you a release and we won't come after you.
Yeah, that's the big part about this. I mean, it kind of ends fighting about it. It ends the litigation. What about the Browns? You know, we're hearing so much about the Goldmans. Is Nicole Brown's family going to see any money, a dollar, from any of this?
I haven't looked at the court file, but if they filed a claim, they certainly would have a right to participate if they had a valid judgment. Remember, because of the age of the judgment, one of the things that happens is you have to renew the judgment every number of years in most jurisdictions, and you have to get it domesticated for wherever the probate is. So a lot of that is legal mumbo jumbo for if you kept it alive and you waited OJ out, then you have the possibility of participating. But if what is reported is true and there's less than $1 million, the professionals can eat that up in no time.
100%. You know, the estate, and you mentioned this too, they approved the government. They approved the Goldmans as creditors. What about OJ's kids? Are they out of luck? Do they not get a cent here, the family?
Well, it's interesting as to whether or not there was, while he was alive, a trust that was set up. I haven't looked at it, and by the way, I try to assiduously avoid the estates and that whole area of the law. Maybe not as much as family law, but it's got a close cousin. But they could have transferred assets during his life into a trust that would have gone to the kids, knowing that once OJ died, there was going to be a food fight for the payment of the judgments. So it would not shock me in the least that the kids have already been taken care of.
And real quick, if OJ didn't die, let's say he lived another 10, 20 years, you think he'd ever pay out 1 cent to the Goldmans and Nicole Brown's family? Or you think there would always be ways for him to make sure not to cover it up?
No, I mean, he's proven. I mean, if past his prologue, he's proven that, I mean, the first thing he did was move to Florida. They have more expansive laws in terms of their asset protection. Then he was in Nevada to claim his memorabilia back, but Nevada's got some favorable laws as well. But I think he was not moving for geography as much as he was asset protection.
Well, this is another chapter of the OJ saga that we close on. Mark Geragos, thank you so much. Good seeing you.
Good seeing you, Jesse. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.